Друзі, мої вітання, з вами програма «1 на 1» і я її ведучий, мене звуть Олександр Свиденюк. Дякую, що лишаєтесь з нами. У мене сьогодні в гостях голова Україно-Австрійської асоціації Альфред Праус.
Alfred F. Praus, master degree in business administration, about 25 years experience of doing business worldwide, management, mergers and acquisitions, strategic planning, chairman of the board members of a multinational group, capitalization of business about 200 million euros, 1,000 employees on 3 continents, 15 years in Ukraine managing director of 2 companies, business-to-business format, Austria-Ukraine founder and president of the Ukrainian-Austrian Association since 2017, ICBAC, the International Council of Associations and Chambers in Ukraine, established in 2017, Secretary General 2019-20, member of the Executive Board President of Rotary Club, Kyiv International Business, 2021-22, Chairman of Rotary Inter-Country Ukraine-Austria Committee, 2021-24.
Hello, Mr. Praus. Let's start. First of all, I want to that you introduce yourself, please.
Good afternoon. So talking about myself, I'm an Austrian. I have an MBA degree from Austrian University of Economics. 28 years in international industry and engineering, world market leaders, up to board level of, at the end, a mid-cap company, group of companies with around 1,000 people and $250–300 million business volume all over the world on every continent. 2004, end of 2004, Orange Revolution. By chance, I came the first time to Ukraine because a friend of mine was asking me to support him, to help him building up some business here. So immediately, end of 2004, the Austrian ambassador took my hand and showed me around. And this is how I came into touch, into contact with 3 ministers of the former Yushchenko regime, so to say. At the same time, I did some investigation about logistics in Ukraine because another Austrian friend was asking me to build up and to manage, general manager of a logistics center. All this broke down due to the crisis in 2008. And I wanted to go back to Austria, back to top management of international groups domiciled in Austria. But at that time, I already knew my wife, my actual wife. She's Ukrainian. She is soloist of National Opera of Ukraine, Susanna Chachoyan, well known, also on TV, radio, etc. And that kept me here. I decided to do it differently, to take responsibility in that I was building up a platform of myself, not trusting into chambers and these international chambers. So I built up the Ukrainian-Austrian Association in 2017. I was presiding this association from the very start. Still, I'm president. So this is a council with the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, Gennady Chizhikov, German Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, British Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, French Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, Canadians, US, China, Turkey, etc. And but basically, I am a businessman doing B2B, business to business, and matchmaking, taking the hands of an Ukrainian company which wants to go to Austria or beyond, International Council. So it's not only Austria meanwhile, and or taking the hand of an Austrian company who says, I need some guidance beyond Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine, for example, Austrian Chamber of Commerce. In the real business, please assist us, help us, support us. Although, last 10 sentence, the Ukrainian-Austrian Association has 3 pillars. One pillar is cultural contacts, cultural exchange. The second pillar is civil life, social life. This is our today's topic, so to say. And the third one is business, economy, business, where I'm acting as a B2B matchmaker. As I said, I'm also a FOP in Ukraine, private entrepreneur, and I have a company in Austria, so I'm flexible because I'm on a shuttle mission. So that's it.
My first question after that is, as you say, today is not first year you're here. Do you understand Ukrainian mentality?
I must say, I have been in many countries, including the Philippines, South America, Arabian countries, as I said, Far East, African countries, some business in Kenya, South Africa, etc. And of course, all over Europe. I'm international, multinational, and Ukrainian, okay. So I may tell you that still after 13, 14 years now of a liaison with my wife, sometimes there are some issues I don't fully understand, at least at first glance. Mm-hmm. So the culture is much different, and I do understand a lot of it, of course, meanwhile, otherwise I couldn't survive here, because I clearly understood that some businesses did not develop, some international businesses, because the Ukrainians were not able, were not willing to adapt to the culture of the partner country. Mm-hmm. And this has sometimes destroyed possibilities, and this is a pity because Ukraine has to offer a lot of things and very good people.
What are the main differences between Ukrainians and Austrians?
I may start that concerning Western Ukraine, there is some historic boundaries. You know, there has been the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, which incorporated the regions of Zakarpattia, Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernivtsi, and parts of Ternopil. So, Western Ukraine, there are joint roots. Take Ivan Franko. Ivan Franko was writing his thesis at Vienna University in German language. Mm-hmm. Just to give an idea, yeah? In economy, Schumpeter was teaching in Chernivtsi. Hayek was teaching in Lviv. If you go to Eastern Ukraine, as you know much better than I do, of course, this is more coined, Russian coined, and maybe even Soviet coined. So it depends on where you are. Not only the language, also the mentality, yeah? So that means basically mentality is much different, and that is partly due to the fact that since 1918, and this was nearly 100 years, Ukraine was coined from the Soviet times, and there are big cultural differences. Yeah, so there are distinct things, distinct differences between Ukrainian and Western mentality and culture.
People who live in Kiev like to tell that Kiev is all Ukrainian. It means that Kiev has so a lot of differences between regions. Do you agree with this?
Kiev is a melting pot, because if you take the population of Kiev, which may be around 3 million, officially it's less, of course, you will have maybe 50% from other oblasts, other regions of Ukraine. There is the government, and there is still, although there is a decentralization, but the central element is still stronger than in most of the Western European countries, yeah? But a lot of progress concerning decentralization has been done. I have to emphasize that. So Kiev is not typical. It's the capital, and it's a mixture. It's a melting pot, like in London, yeah? New York is the most important city in the United States. Okay, government is in Washington, but in New York you have a Chinese quarter, etc., etc., etc. This is not typical.
When you compare Kyiv and London, that's good sounds. So, do you think Ukraine is a Europe? Can you
Ukraine
tell
is
us?
Europe.
It's Europe.
The geographical center of Europe is near Kharkiv in Zakarpattia. I've been there. And that means Europe stretches to Ural, of course, yeah. But I'm always wondering why many people in Ukraine say, I'm going to Europe now, meaning going to Germany, to Austria, to Italy, to France, or whatever, going to Europe. And I tell them, you are in Europe.
Do you feel some Soviet in here?
Of course. It's more in the east. So even in the oblasts of Kharkiv or Dnipro, yeah, of course the eastern mentality is still abound, especially with the population beyond, say, 50 years of age, 45, 50 years of age. So even my wife, which is much younger than I am, but she was raised when she was in school, it was Soviet times.
In political and economical situation in Ukraine is rather unstable. Why did you choose Ukraine?
As I was mentioning at the start, I was asked to support the son of a formerly very successful Eastern European businessman, Austrian businessman in Eastern Europe. When I wanted to leave, it was family reasons why I was staying. So I had to adapt, and adapting means to take my fate in my hands, and this was why I was establishing the Ukrainian-Austrian Association.
Okay, can you compare the Ukraine when you started your business here and now?
So I would say Ukraine today is distinctly different from Ukraine 2004. 2004, Ukraine was kind of a perpetuation of a soft Soviet feeling or mentality, so to say. Now it's associated to the European Union.
Okay, you told some about Ukrainian-Austrian Association, but I want to ask you about what are the successful projects you have implemented yet?
As Ukrainian-Austrian Association, for example, I was asked by Mr. Savchenko, he is president and owner of Международный Institute Business, so that's the biggest business school. They wanted to have a partner university, and I was taking his hand, matchmaking, just to give you one example. I have also assisted some Ukrainian businesses who wanted to go internationally, but then again I was faced with the Ukrainian mentality in that it was not straightforward. It was I said, you have to do this and that. Yes, we will call in. I say, I need the sales management, marketing and sales. So we had a big meeting, yeah. Who was missing? Director of sales and marketing. And yeah, we will do without him. But he is the crucial, the central issue, because your weakness is in marketing and sales.
Okay. Next time I want to tell you about business, about international business. How does European business assess Ukrainian business climate?
Let me start with the positive side of it. Also under Poroshenko, and Yushchenko was starting it, and in between Yanukovych, under Yanukovych it was deteriorating, but then Poroshenko continued the positive development. The ease of doing business. There is an internationally, supranational index administered by World Bank, ease of doing business, has improved a lot. That means if you want to establish a business, nowadays a limited liability company, a TOF takes you 2 or 3 days. You can do it practically exclusively online even, okay, you need a notary and this and that, but it's easy going. Before that, It took quite some time. It was good to take an advisor, which had dollar in his eyes, the advisor, I mean, and residence permits, etc. And all this is aggravated by the political instability, because Ukraine has a neighbor which is presided by a certain Mr. Putin, and he's doing everything to destabilize Ukraine, even now, on the borders of Ukraine, etc., militarily, the military threat, etc. So this means this is scaring international investment, because they don't know what happens. And one thing international community and potential international investors have learned, that the Ukrainians are meanwhile proud Ukrainians. And should there be an invasion by Russia, they will not easily give in. So this would be a war, at least for a certain period of time. And that means that it may be very, very, very difficult for business. So this is the second dark side, in that there is a lot of hesitance, a lot of talk, but much less action about foreign investment and foreign relations with Ukraine.
So the next question is, how interesting to European business, particularly from Austria, to invest their money to Ukraine?
Austria is among the top 5 investors in Ukraine. Banking, our insurance, Vienna Insurance Group, Unica, etc. Even in industry, wood industry, paper industry, household industry, Shitomir, Evrogold, yeah, Corinthian investment, aluminum, ladders, household ladders, dryers, yeah, for after washing, yeah, etc. Market leader in Ukraine and one of the top 3 in all Europe, etc. Skiing, Fischer in Mukachevo, etc. So among the top investors in Ukraine, basically there are sectors which are very good and very promising for investment, and those are sectors which are not dominated by oligarchs. So to invest in energy, electricity, gas, oil, fertilizer business, you may know who is behind that. It's oligarchs, yeah. So it's this guy who is in Vienna, yeah, fertilizer, etc. Better not to do it, because there are even laws protecting these interests. Also, although this guy has been in Vienna for years, how come? He's got his fingers everywhere, yeah. So, but machinery, but alternative energies, yeah, tourism, infrastructure, etc., etc. There are areas, if they are not covered by oligarchic interests or strong business interests, this is very promising. If you compare that to Poland, Ukraine is maybe 1/3 in terms of these indexes, yeah, these ratios. If you take about GDP per capita, Poland is 3 times as much. Belarus is nearly double. So there is a reason for that, because Poland and Ukraine in 1991, they were starting from more or less the same level. How come that Poland is 3 times as rich? Ukraine has the same riches, and in Poland not so much was stolen. So Ukraine is a very rich country, but unofficial, in the shadow.
It's good. Okay, if you compare the corruption level in Ukraine with Yushchenko and now better or worse?
I'm not an expert. So what I tell you is personal feeling, which may be right, which may be wrong. I would not see too much difference. In case of doubt, it's a little bit less. Yeah, I would say it's less, but I would not say it's half.
Okay, if we compare the taxes legislation, now it's going to be better or now? maybe freely for business or no?
You see, to pay taxes means to fund the state for the tasks of the state. And the Ukrainian population, I understand people in Ukraine, they say, if I pay a lot of taxes and a lot of social contributions, I expect to get back quite much of what I have paid in during my active life when I'm in pension, when I'm retired. But if you pay a lot and you end up with a pension in terms of euro of maybe 50 or 60 euro a month, that means 50, 60, 70% of what you have paid in is just lost. Why ever? It's lost, it's gone somewhere, yeah? So this means that there is so much tax evasion in Ukraine. I pay for something I don't get. I have a health insurance, but if when I'm in hospital and I'm gravely ill, if I don't pay, I will die. So you have to pay. Not so much. A lot has been done concerning the health system, but still, yeah, without paying, you may still die. Yeah? And when you pay, you may survive. Yeah? This is still the case in many cases, so to say. So the tax evasion, tax corruption, is partly a resultant of the fact that what is collected is not paid out because a lot of these monies are just disappearing somewhere.
Okay, I have some special question. If libertarian economic legislation will introduce into Ukraine, will solve the situation or not?
It depends on the system. Libertarian economy or libertarian system requires a clear order. By that I don't mean a police state, no, but a clear order. What are the do's, what are the don'ts? And it requires people sticking to that. A well-founded democratic system where people stick to the democratic principles of this country. This is not so much ingrained in Ukraine, because again, a difference between Ukraine and, let me put it to the extreme, and the Far East. In the Far East, it's collectivism. People are a nobody, stand alone. They need the collective, yeah? Decision-making in Japan, in Korea, etc. It's always a team. It's never a single person, yeah? In Ukraine, it's individualism. The Ukrainians are extremely individual. Give you an example from my touristic development in near Slavske, Carpathian Mountains, skiing. Dynamo was asking me, our company I was managing, to assist in building up Trostian, this famous skiing mountain. I was going there, I was even skiing there to see how is it, yeah? Like in not last but 1 century, so to say. Yeah? But I said, what you need, there have been some chairlifts already near to Trostian, 2 or 3 kilometers. Maybe you create a skiing pass for the valley, which is standard in all Western Europe. No, these are our lifts and they are our competitors. So everybody is individual. So that means this is a hindrance for development. So that means you need a certain framework for that, and people have to be prepared to stick to this framework.
If we're talking about situation about taxes level in Ukraine, for business, it's okay or not?
Basically speaking, of course it's okay, because the official rates, 18% plus military, yeah, and then there is just some social contribution. This is low under European international standard in Europe. This is on the lower side. So I would not say that this as such is then detrimental to business development. But the point is, if you have companies, people who are able to evade this, they are creating unserious or say unfair competition if they are not paying taxes, or if they are all private entrepreneurs at 5%, yeah, but basically this is a company operation. Take IT. The big advantage of Ukraine in IT is that 95% of people in IT are private entrepreneurs, FOPs. The advantage, at least partly, would be lost. So that means Ukraine would not be that big and that important internationally in terms of IT. Everything is relative.
So, few weeks ago, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, it's Denis Shmyhal, had an online meeting with the then Chancellor of Austria, Alexander Schallenberg, you know her. As a result, it was revealed that Ukraine and Austria has significant development potential. In your opinion, what are the key areas in our relationship between our countries?
So Austria is the strongest investor in banking and in insurance, and also in industrial field, and of course it has been in trade, because Billa was Austrian, basically. Okay, Rewe Group, yeah, the ultimate owner of Billa is German, but Billa has been controlled, has been steered from Austria, all Eastern Europe. Engineering, IT, creative industries, machine building, alternative energies, to name a few. Those are areas which are not so much dominated by oligarchs, where there is more or less free competition. And there is certainly a lot of potential in these areas. And there are a lot of Austrian companies interested, but I told you why they, as are other European companies, Western European companies, why they are hesitant. It's not least also the influence of Ukraine's northern neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Does our government to do enough for development or not? What do you think?
I have to be very cautious now in what I say. Basically, they are doing a lot. I was yesterday, upon invitation by Mr. Tsivkash, I was at the Ukrainian Invest Forum with Shmyhal, plus. What you hear there and what you can read in Ukrainskaya Pravda, etc., the government is doing a lot. And also the regional governments are doing a lot to attract international partners. But it's not so easy. Every coin has two sides. And so that means, again, hesitance. And when Schallenberg is saying a lot of potential, it's right. I said Ukraine is less developed than Western Europe, and this means a lot can be still done in order to come near, even to Romania, Bulgaria. But on the other hand, take Austria, the Austrian OMV is part of the Nord Stream 2 consortium. So the Austrian and OMV is partly state-owned. So the Austrian government has an interest that this pipeline goes on stream. Is this neutral? Is this not neutral? Yeah, this is the question. So it's the same with Germany, talking about politics. Everybody says that Germany is helping so much.
Mm-hmm. This is my second question about Nord Stream 2. 2 days ago, the same Alexander Schallenberg Khaled, to the Putin operation Nord Stream 2. So, why did Austria take such a position? What do you think?
It's the interest in Nord Stream 2, which is manifested in a 12 or 15% participation by the partly state-owned OMV, partner of the consortium. First. Secondly, Austria in many cases is following the lines of Germany. Austria is not a satellite of Germany, but in many cases they are doing it. And thirdly, let me be very open, and this is in the Ukrainian interest when I'm telling that. Russia is really fighting a hybrid war, and hybrid means war in all conceivable spheres. If there is, and this I'm quoting Alexander Marcos, he's a good friend of mine, good friend, personal, private friend, yeah? He stated yesterday at the forum, when there is a German investment in Ukraine, involving a big amount of money, there is a call from a Russian phone, why are you investing in Ukraine? How come you do that? This is terror. And this is not a single case it happens. This is Russia, hybrid warfare. And take into account that Russia's business with Western Europe is 5 to 8 times as big as the business with Ukraine. So Russia is more important. And Russia is playing the complete piano in terms of pressurizing. I gave you examples in every aspect. Take Netrebko. Netrebko is a Russian ambassador. Do we have an ambassador in singing? There are famous cultural Ukrainians, Ukrainians in culture. Is there anybody a real ambassador? Russia is one of the main sponsors of Salzburg Festival. It's a world famous festival. Gazprom. They are everywhere. And that means that Austria, due to these facts, I don't want to go against Austria, but is maybe less neutral than it should be.
Ukrainian more than 8 years trying to join to European Union, but I want to ask you about Europe itself. For example, in Poland and Hungary, we can see the tendency towards disintegration. Do you think it's a temporary crisis or it's the end of the European Union as itself?
Concerning these tendencies, especially in Hungary and in Poland, you are right. This is, I would not say it's alarming, but it's not so good in any case. I would say it's a kind of provocation, because both countries are net receivers. They're getting much more money from the European Union than they are paying to the European Union in terms of membership fees. Yeah? So they would not like to leave, because they would have to forego billions of dollars or euro. We are in Europe. We should talk in euro, not in dollars, as everybody in Ukraine does. Yeah? It should be euro. Before thinking about membership in European Union, please define your business in euro, not in dollars. Yeah? This is a complaint, yeah, I have. Okay, so that means these countries are making very good business being members of the European Union. They are provoking. And that means, they are also provoking due to subversive actions by the Kremlin. And that even goes to Serbia, yeah, Bosnia-Herzegovina, yeah. So Putin is doing his business to tear them apart, yeah, Bosnia-Herzegovina, for example, Serbia, yeah, Serbia, Kosovo, etc. Incinerating conflicts where it is easier through subversive actions. So there is in some way Putin behind it, and on the other hand, it's a provocation. How far can we go? If the European Union says, okay, if you continue, you will lose $10 billion in that, $5 billion in that, they would be easily silent. And if the government of these countries does not agree, the next elections would prove to the contrary, and the government will be gone. You know what I mean, yeah?
Yes.
So they like to stay, they are just provoking.
This is not the end of European Union.
That there will be, as some people say, some experts say, a Europe of two different speeds. One is the former European Union going forward in a stronger speed, and then it's these countries, which are in the outer circle, two circles of the European Union, but it will not break up. I don't see that.
Ukraine and the European Union, how real integration?
There has been the association agreement of 2014, I think, or 15. I remember Yanukovych was refusing to sign it. That was a big issue. I was in Vienna. When Yanukovych was in Vienna, there was a business forum with the Austrian Chamber of Commerce. And it was a historic moment, so to say. And I was sitting in the second row. Of course, I'm on good terms with the heads of, also due to my former industrial activities, with the heads of Austrian Chamber of Commerce. And on the podium, we were sitting the Austrian president at that time, Fischer, and Yanukovych. Yanukovych, they came for 1 hour to Business Forum Ukraine, Austria, for 1 hour and a half. And when Fischer and Yanukovych were sitting on the stage, somebody came and was whispering something into the ears of Austrian President Fischer. And Fischer, off protocol, so out of protocol, got up to the rostrum, took the microphone and said, I just heard something I want to tell you because this is from a source I trust. I just heard that Ukraine will not sign the association agreement. Yanukovych was sitting beside him, did not really react, yeah? And then he was speaking, and he was not mentioning one word about this so grave happening, incident. You know what I mean, yeah? So he was not prepared to talk. Maybe he was not cute or clever enough, yeah, to give a good answer, yeah? He was just evading, he was not even mentioning that. Everybody was, and Yanukovych was talking what he had prepared. So, coming back, tell me your question again, please.
Ukrainian and the European Union, how real to integration?
So, Ukraine is associated. Don't forget there is visa freedom. This is a big freedom, yeah, concerning European integration. But, to be very honest, such an association has to be lived. And if you take the assessment from the European Union, how much has been achieved, progress, yeah, in association, in associating, in real terms, not on paper, in real terms. If you take the European Union side and the Ukrainian side, the judgment is somewhat different. So a lot of things have to happen to really live the integration, the association. But of course, again, there is progress, but it's slow, step by step, and sometimes 2 steps forward and 1 step back. A country is ruled as good as the government is. And if government functions are appointed, or government people are appointed more because they are loyal and less because they are professional, in some cases, this is the outcome. And if you say progress towards association with the European Union, is it a progress if you are deviating from European Union principles? In the newly, now, It was better, and now you go back deviating. Now, yeah, is it a progress? So it's again 2 steps forward, sometimes 1.5 steps back.
What steps do you think need to be taken to correspond to the Copenhagen criteria for Ukraine?
If I'm not wrong, Copenhagen criterion are from the 90s of last century, and this is the criteria in order to join the European Union, right?
Sure.
This is market economy. As long as there are powerful vested interests, and as long as there is no real competition, at least in some major area of Ukrainian economy, the market side, the economic side, is not sufficiently mature, first. Second, and I'm just quoting what you can read every day somewhere, lack of rule of law. Talking about the criteria, I think this is criteria which were established in Copenhagen in the 90s concerning accession, joining the European Union, criteria to be fulfilled. So on one hand it's market. You need a market economy. Much too many invested interests in Ukraine, in some sectors. Okay, there is a fight for de-oligarchization in Ukraine. Let's see where you end up. If Akhmedov wants to fight back, and he certainly fights back, he's strong enough, yeah? DTEC is registered in Holland, in the Netherlands. So he will go to European courts. Is that good for Ukraine associated with European Union? He will fight back stronger than the politicians may be aware of. And this is a question of quality of politics. No real market economy. And then you can read every day in newspapers or here in international TV, international papers, rule of law. SAPO, to have a new head of SAPO, ISO, yeah, International Standards Organization. Yeah? So there is progress here. But just to tell you, human rights, it's part to be stuck to, and you know that in your NGO, etc. Yeah? There are other areas. So Ukraine is still a far cry from being eligible.
The main question, is it necessary for Ukraine to join to the European Union?
If you're very strong, like for example Switzerland, you're having nearly all the advantages without having to be a member. But you know, Ukraine is not Switzerland, okay? And that means it's not an absolute necessity. On the other hand, it's a certain protection.
Okay, and the last question about your organization. What is your plans in your organization going to be?
We have 3 pillars, as I said: culture, civil life, and business, economy, business. There is a sister organization in Austria. This is Österreichisch-Ukrainische Gesellschaft, registered in Vienna. My plan is to create a strategic partnership with them. This also means sponsoring. Plus, I want to take that also as far as possible under the umbrella of Rotary International. Rotary, this is my personal plan, my vision. Create much more power, and this is seen and this is aimed at supporting Ukraine in Austria and hopefully beyond that.
Okay, the traditional question for everybody. Can you recommend me some book that you write in before or something like that?
I can recommend you a book, and this is a book written by the president of our supervisory council together with Ambassador Emil Brix, Busek Brix, Ambassador Emil Brix, head of the Diplomatic Academy in Austria. Central Europe Revisited, and this is available in Ukrainian language.
Good, Mr. Praus, your intelligence, your experience, it's a big value for Ukraine, I think. So I very appreciate that you come here. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, and it comes with a certain age that you are more open to pass on what you have learned. And I'm in that stage already, so maybe continued. Thank you very much.